With the Nintendo Switch 2 just a day away, I thought it would be a great time to look back on one of Nintendo's best consoles ever, the Nintendo Switch. I got mine right on launch day at midnight on March 3rd, 2017 with Zelda Breath of the Wild, and in the years following, it has built such an incredible library of games, and I honestly do think it has one of the strongest lineup of games ever for a system, and that's what we're here to talk about today. Hey guys, Game Prime here, and this is my top 10 Nintendo Switch games. Now, for this list, I have not included any ports from the Wii U, so as much as it pains me not to put Donkey Kong Country Tropical Freeze on this list, that's just what I've decided. With that being said, remakes and remasters are fine, but straight ports won't make the cut for this list, except for one small exception. In between each pick, I'll have an honorable mention that won't follow any rules at all, and I'll only yap about them for a minute or so. Anyway, let's start things off with Number 10, Super Mario 3D All-Stars. Now, like I just said, I'm not including any straight ports on this list. This compilation of games are remasters because of the enhanced frame rates and higher resolution textures. This came out in September 2020 to celebrate Mario's 35th anniversary, and I honestly was really excited for this. Not only do we get 3 of Mario's best adventures on one cartridge, we technically got an HD remaster of both Mario Sunshine and Mario Galaxy. Now, there were 2 problems with this collection. One was that Super Mario 64 was almost untouched when it came to enhancing anything aside from the textures on the character models and the UI. We didn't even get widescreen support for this. Mind you too, this was around the time people really started to mod Mario 64 due to the data leak from months prior in 2020. And fans already got a widescreen mod going even before 3D All-Stars came out. There was no reason for them not to make it in widescreen, and I have no idea why they didn't when they were able to do Sunshine in widescreen perfectly, where that was not a native widescreen game. The second problem was about the availability. This game was only available for 6 months, starting in September 2020 until the end of March 2021. After that, whatever stock was on store shelves remained until they were bought, and the eShop listing got taken down. I don't know why they chose to do this. Nobody will ever know why they chose to do this, especially since they haven't provided another way to buy these games since. On the brighter side of things, playing Sunshine and Galaxy made up for the $60 price tag alone, and I absolutely loved playing through both, especially Galaxy. The way it shines in HD is amazing, and it looked like it could have been released today. The controls were perfect too, and translated to the Pro Controller flawlessly, and of course if you wanted a playstyle like the original, you had motion controls available to you. This collection was so much fun though, and I still go back to Galaxy specifically once, every few years now. Number 9, The Legend of Zelda Link's Awakening. I've always been a fan of Zelda games, 2D and 3D alike, but I never really beat a lot of them, although I have played them all. However, when the Link's Awakening remake came out in 2019, it really hooked me. A lot of people have said that Link's Awakening was their favorite Zelda game, and after playing this, I realized why. The story, the locations, the characters were all so charming and different, not to mention the amazing claymation art style that they brought to this game. It was also really challenging at points too, and that just made the whole experience so much more memorable for me. Number 8. Mario Kart 8 Booster Course Pass. So, due to my rule of no straight ports, I didn't include Mario Kart 8 Deluxe on this list. However, I am including the DLC, the Booster Course Pass, because this was essentially the Switch's Mario Kart game. Even though it was just DLC, we were presented with 48 new and returning courses, and it was a blast. Some of the courses were ported straight from the mobile game Mario Kart Tour, and unfortunately you could see some of the visual downsides to that. However, on the positive side, we got courses that were exclusive to Tour and that we would have never been able to normally play other than just playing Tour, which, let's be real, it's a half-baked Mario Kart game because of the controls. Getting fan favorites like Kalimari Desert and Choco Mountain back were great to see, and new courses like Ninja Hideaway and Yoshi's Island were also great. Not to mention, we also got new and returning characters like Diddy Kong, Pauline, Birdo, and more. For $25, you are getting so much content, and it was so worth it. Number 7, Super Mario Party Jamboree. So this was a big toss-up between Mario Party Superstars and this game, Super Mario Party Jamboree. The Switch had an interesting lineup of Mario Party games. Super Mario Party came out in 2018, and they went back to how Mario Party should be. However, it had some big problems. Every character had their own specific dice that had specific numbers you could roll, and the partners were an odd inclusion since you could basically get double coins or double stars depending on how lucky you get. And the economy was really, really bad in the game. 10 coins for a star just didn't make any lick of sense to me, and every time me and my friends had played it, we had so many stars. It was actually ridiculous for a Mario Party game. Also, you could only use the Joy-Con for the entire game, and you can't play it in handheld mode either. So those two big factors there was really odd for a game that came out in 2018, which was only the second year of the system's life. Then in 2021, Mario Party Superstars came out, and it was amazing. The best N64 Mario Party maps came back, along with minigames from all 10 Mario Party games up to that point, excluding Super. The only downside to this game was that the economy was still kinda messed up with you earning coins way too easily. However, stars went back up to 20 coins, so that was good. Also, I can't forget to mention that you could use normal controls, Pro Controller included, and it was a lifesaver. In 2024, Jamboree came out and it implemented all the good things from Super and Superstars and gave us the best Mario Party experience in the last 2 decades. This is the true successor to Mario Party 8 and all the original Mario Party games before that. The buddy system is redefined, so you have to earn them through minigames, and they only stick around for a few rounds, so it makes it fair all around for every player. Plus, they appear more than once in the board, so everybody has an opportunity to win one. There are also 112 new minigames, a single-player mode, and the online runs flawlessly. This is the definitive Mario Party of the Nintendo Switch generation, and I can't wait to see what they do next on the Switch 2. Number 6, Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom. Now this one is cheating a little, but honestly you can't really have one without the other. So we'll start off with Breath of the Wild, the game that kickstarted the Switch generation. The game I skipped school to play and poured hundreds of hours into. A very different kind of Zelda game, but it made for a great experience. You could spend so much time exploring Hyrule and finding shrines. It made it really hard to put the controller down. The Divine Beast dungeons were a bit odd, and definitely the worst part of the game, but the story beats that went alongside each of them made up for it. The characters were so memorable, the locations were great, and if you are a big Zelda fan, you would recognize some of them from previous titles that they kind of hinted at, and it was just a love letter to the entire series all around, while still making something new, fresh, and innovative. The DLC, however, though, I think was really weak. I never completed it, and it just seemed really boring to me. Tears of the Kingdom expanded on everything that made Breath of the Wild great, and it made it even better with making the map essentially 3 times as large, since not only do you have a remixed Hyrule, you have in-air and the depths to explore. It was a little bit of overkill, but there's so much game there, and you could pour thousands of hours into that one because of how much more there is to do than Breath of the Wild. I cannot wait to finally finish it when I get the Switch 2 and I get the upgraded Switch 2 version. Number 5, Kirby and the Forgotten Land. Ever since I saw the demo trailer for Kirby Adventure on GameCube, I always wanted a full 3D Kirby game. That game eventually became Return to Dreamland, and for years they just continued to do 2D Kirby games, but with 3D models. Finally though, in March 2022, they released Kirby and the Forgotten Land, and it was everything I wanted and more. I really liked Super Mario Land in 2011 on the 3DS, and I wasn't that much of a fan of 3D World in 2013, though I think it's an alright game now. However, I think Forgotten Land fully encapsulates that style of gameplay and expands on it so much more. This style of game works perfect for Kirby, and I had an absolute blast playing it. The levels are so much fun, they're all varied and unique, the abilities are probably the best in any Kirby game, and the music is actually really good and memorable as well. I can't wait to play Star-Crossed World on the Switch 2 version of this. Nintendo, I need a sequel to this, and I need more of this style of Kirby game because it was perfection. Number 4, Paper Mario the Origami King. Now, for something that may shock everyone, I absolutely loved Paper Mario the Origami King. COVID was a really weird time for gaming and announcements overall. I knew it was time for a new Paper Mario since it has a 4-year release schedule, and I was really curious if a new one would bring back the magic of 64, Thousand Year Door, and Super. Origami King did, and then some. It was announced randomly in May of 2020, then released in July. It was easily one of my most anticipated games of the year. It brought back the openness of Paper Mario 64 and Thousand Year Door, something that was missing in the last 2 games. It also brought back partners in a different way than 64, Thousand Year Door, and Super, but they all had a cast of characters that made an impact on the story and made it feel unique. Chapters also returned, though they weren't specifically called chapters, but areas represented by the banners on Peach's castle. Each area felt different and gave me that sense of adventure all the chapters in 64 and Thousand Year Door, and even Super did. The music and the soundtrack of this game was absolutely phenomenal, and it has so many great tracks that I still hum to this day. Now, as far as the battle system goes, yeah, it's not what everybody wanted, but it was still much better than stickers and paint. I actually like that I had to think and plan my attacks out. The battle system really made for some really interesting fights, especially boss fights. I had a basic hammer and jump attack I could use at any time, and that was enough for me because the last 2 games didn't have that. Everything else in the battles I just planned ahead with, and it felt like having badges back in a sense. There were also items you could buy in the shops that acted just like badges from the original games, so that also gave me a great sense of nostalgia too, seeing that they brought a mechanic like that back, even if it was toned down and reduced a lot. I could go on and on about this game. It was a fantastic experience and a lengthy game too, at a point where we all needed it. This game gets too much hate, and I'll just say it here, I think it's at points better than Thousand Year Door. It's not better than 64, as I personally think that's the best Paper Mario game, but man, Origami King really shocked me at how good it was, and it really has me excited for what they'll do in the future now that we're in a timeline that we've had a Thousand Year Door remake. They could just get that battle system and implement it in something new and in as grand of scale as Origami King, and we're really in for something special with the next Paper Mario in 3 years. Number 3, Luigi's Mansion 3. I've been a fan of the Luigi's Mansion games since the very start, as Luigi's Mansion 1 was one of my first games ever when I was little playing it on my GameCube. When Luigi's Mansion Dark Moon came out in 2013, I was really disappointed when it split the game up into missions and multiple mansions. It really took me out of the immersion, and I still, to this day, don't really like that game much at all. I gave it a good solid try when the remaster came out last year. I still can't do it. I was really nervous when 3 was announced because I didn't want to hate it like I did with 2, but I'm so glad to say that wasn't the case. They returned to the normal formula that was perfected in the first game, and this time instead of multiple mansions, Luigi explored one huge hotel. Finding the buttons for the elevator was a great way to progress through the game, and Gooigi was a fun and unique gameplay element that made solving puzzles really fun. The visuals on this game too are stunning, and I think it's up there as one of, if not the best looking Switch 1 game. Every character just oozes with charisma and charm, and this was an absolute joy to play. I was stunned with how amazing 3 was compared to 2, being that they were made by the same developers, and I'm so excited to see what they'll do with Luigi's Mansion 4 whenever they decide to make it. Number 2, Super Smash Bros. Ultimate. Where do I even begin with Smash Ultimate? This has to be one of the best experiences and one of the best times to be a video game fan ever. If you're not a Smash fan, I'm sorry you didn't get to go on this thrill ride with everyone. From the moment we saw the logo glare in the Inkling's eyes, to everyone is here, to the handshake that shook the gaming world to its core, every moment was something special. Talking about the main game first, it is truly something special that somehow they managed to get every single character from every single Smash game back for this. On top of that, we got a lot of returning stages, a lot of new and returning music, and a handful of new characters at launch, including some people were really requesting for a long time, like Ridley, King K. Rool, and Simon Belmont. It was very cool actually going through the history of Smash right before your eyes as you start out with the original Smash 64 cast and then unlock more characters as you play. The only downside to the game, I would say, is that the single player mode, World of Light, just doesn't even hold a candle to Subspace Emissary from Brawl. But aside from the lackluster story mode, I managed to have so many years of fun with this game with my friends in person and online. Now let's talk about the DLC, and I'm sorry this is going to turn into a small recap of all the trailers, but so many of these reveal trailers mean so much to me and the hype they brought was absolutely unreal. So let me take you on a few rides. The night Smash Ultimate came out was the night of the 2018 Game Awards. It's a night I will never forget. It's where the Phantom Thieves of Hearts took over Jeff Keighley's show, and it was revealed that Joker from Persona 5 stole the invitation to be the first DLC fighter in a season pass of 5 upcoming characters that would be released throughout the next year or so. Right away, as a huge Persona fan, I was losing my mind. So much that, in fact, that me and my friends were driving home from a concert to the midnight launch, and I made a wrong turn because we were freaking out over Joker so much. I had no idea how much I needed Persona representation in Smash, but when he came out, it was perfect. Trying to keep this a little short, I wasn't interested in Hero from Dragon Quest, but the next character they revealed at E3 2019 was my number one character I have ever wanted for Super Smash Bros. Banjo and Kazooie. It finally happened. My Baron Bird finally returned home to Nintendo, and this was really the start of a great working relationship between Nintendo, Microsoft, and Rare going forward through the Switch's life. Terry from Street Fighter and Byleth from Fire Emblem were the last two to round out the first pack. Didn't care for either of them, honestly, but it didn't matter to me because I got Banjo. Soon after that, they announced the second Fighter's Pass, and they kicked that off with Min Min from ARMS. Yeah, I wasn't thrilled about that one either. After that, we got Steve and Alex from Minecraft, and I don't care for Minecraft that much either, but this was a huge moment for gaming as a whole. So much so that it actually crashed Twitter when it happened. For many years after Cloud got in Smash 4, I was saying to myself, man, I can't believe One Winged Angel isn't in Smash. It's the perfect Smash Bros. Song. And lo and behold, the Game Awards 2020 comes around, and they pull an absolute shock as Sephiroth appears, takes out everyone, almost kills Mario, and joins Smash. This was one of the most epic moments in Smash history, and what made Sephiroth's inclusion even better was that you could get him a few days early if you beat him in what they called the Sephiroth Challenge. A limited time game mode they put in just so you could get him early, if you were able to beat him. Next up was Kazuya from Tekken. That really didn't interest me. Same for Pyra Mythra from Xenoblade 2. We were quickly approaching the last character. I was convinced that it was either going to be Crash, Waluigi, or my personal hope, Sora from Kingdom Hearts. Not only did I get my number 1 most wanted in Banjo-Kazooie, but somehow I got my number 2 in Sora. This was a magical moment and so many of us were in tears. He was the perfect last character, and the handshake with Mario was a bigger moment than almost anything in the entire game. He was the perfect last character, and the handshake with Mario was a bigger moment than almost anything in this entire game. I'm sorry that I just spent so much time talking about Smash, but there were literally 3 or so years of content to talk about, and so many of the DLC fighters meant so much to me. I have no idea how they're going to top this game. I'm confident in Sakurai and the team, and they're gonna figure it out. I honestly kind of just want them to release a Switch 2 version of the game and include a new Fighter's Pass. I'd be completely fine with that. There are still so many characters I'd love to see, like Crash, Dante, Travis Touchdown, etc. And now, even though I just milked Smash Ultimate for everything it's worth, somehow there's one more game that topped it all. Ladies and gentlemen, my favorite Switch game of all time, and what I think is one of the best experiences I've ever had all around in a game, is Mario Strikers Battle League. Nah, I'm just fucking with you. Number 1, Super Mario Odyssey. Let me preface this by saying that I was born in 1999, so I grew up playing Super Mario 64, Sunshine, and all the games that came before that. Galaxy was the first 3D Mario that I could properly get hyped for as a little kid, and that was a magical experience and is still to this day, like I talked about in 3D All-Stars, one of my favorite 3D Marios ever. Galaxy 2 came out, and it was good. It stripped a lot of the personality and charm of the first game away and replaced for more levels. Then 3D Land and World came out, and as much as I loved Land, I was really hoping that World would be the next big leap for 3D Mario, like Galaxy was when I first played it. 3D World severely disappointed me when it came out, and it wasn't until Bowser's Fury where it became a game that I wanted it to back then. However, when the Switch first got revealed, we saw a clip of Mario running around in a desert area, and it looked and reminded me so much of Mario 64 and Sunshine. I just had to see more. When the game fully got revealed in January 2017, I was floored. This was the game I was waiting for, and the wait until October was excruciating. It was worth it though. Super Mario Odyssey was pure magic from start to end. I loved the capture mechanic so much, and I thought it flowed perfectly throughout the game. Way more so than Flood and Sunshine, and even the Luma spin from Galaxy. Each continent you went to was a great way to explore different locations, even though I would have preferred Hub World instead of a lazy world map. The amount of moons and things to collect in this game was perfect, because it never once felt like it was too bloated. You could really play the game at your own pace and to your own liking. There was so much to explore in each world, and I just didn't want to stop playing. The costumes were also an awesome touch, and I loved how many different ones you could get that had references to either other characters in Mario, or just other costumes Mario's worn in the past. The music is also a huge part of the magic, with tracks like Bonneton, New Donk City, and Steam Gardens being the standouts. And of course, I can't forget the beautiful Jump Up Superstar sequence, which looking back is just one of the all-time best sequences in any game. Mario Odyssey is pure magic. It represents everything Nintendo is, was, and will be going into the future, and I can't wait for Donkey Kong Bonanza, since it looks like it's going to be a spiritual successor of sorts to Odyssey, and of course the next mainline 3D Mario game, which hopefully we don't have to wait that much longer for. Thank you all for watching my top 10 Nintendo Switch games. This console was absolutely amazing, and I loved all the time I spent with it. I know they're going to knock it out of the ballpark with Switch 2, and I'm so excited to see so many of these games I talked about just now get new installments on that system. Let me know what your favorite Switch games are and what you are looking forward to on the Switch 2. Thank you all for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and also check out and subscribe to my multiplayer channel, 4Player Gamers. And yeah, we are just hours away from the Switch 2 by the time this video gets out. Enjoy, guys. I will see you guys very soon. Thanks for watching.